Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the analysis of YOLENO TV. I hope you're well from wherever you're watching this channel. Now, we have heard about the hurdle that RAILA Odinga is facing.
The latest announcement from the presidency of the Republic of Djibouti makes Mahmoud Yusuf the third candidate from the East African region after Somalia's Fauzia Yusuf announced her bid.
Djibouti has thrown its hat into the ring for the African Union Commission chairmanship, joining Kenya and Somalia, a move that is likely to change the dynamics in the competition in the Eastern African region.
Most YouTubers, most political analysts have talked about this hurdle. I took most of my time trying to analyze this issue, the move by Djibouti fronting Yusuf, the former foreign minister who served for 2 terms, during the 1990s. You see, this is not the first time that Djibouti is trying to spoil Kenya's chances. There was another story of UN Security Council where AU had fronted Kenya to be the candidate, but Djibouti also wanted to spoil that chance again. But again, Kenya ended up winning. There is something that the only person who has talked about is Pauline Njoroge. So I will go extensively into this story and share with you a tweet from Pauline Njoroge. But before you do that, please take this moment, just 1 second, go below there and like this video. Subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed before. Mind if you like this video, now YouTube will share this video to so many people who are not part of our audience. That is the only support I request from you, ladies and gentlemen. Those who supported us before, thanks so much for your support. The government of Djibouti says that Mr. Yusuf has experience in diplomatic works which gives him an edge over Prime Minister RAILA Odinga and Somalia's former Foreign Affairs Minister Fauzia Yusuf Adam.
Djibouti expressed its confidence in the abilities of its candidate, saying he has all the assets to meet the expectations and interests of the continent, including fluency in French, English and Arabic. Djibouti's bid is seen as targeting the Francophone and Arabic speakers.
But why is Djibouti so interested in this position, even as majority of East African countries are showing support for RAILA Odinga? Djibouti has challenged Kenya before in international elections when it bid for the UN Security Council membership, even though the AU had endorsed Kenya for the non-permanent position. Now, this is where it becomes interesting. This year, there is another bid of the same. But what has it that Djibouti has not bid for the position, which is open for the East African region again? AU said this time round, East Africa again is supposed to bid for that position. And when AU makes that decision, it's always supposed to be those other countries are supposed to just pull out. But the funny thing is that Somalia received an endorsement from AU, just like Kenya received last time. But what is funny is that Djibouti is not showing signs of bidding. In other words, Djibouti doesn't want to contest with Somalia for that position. But last time, when AU had endorsed Kenya for the same position, Djibouti went ahead and contested for the same position again with Kenya. But I understand Kenya garnered majority of the votes. So this is why I feel there is something that Djibouti wants in Kenya, or maybe Djibouti is simply looking for ways of spoiling for Kenya's chances, because if the UN Security Council, Djibouti made that move of contesting for this position with Kenya, despite the fact that AU had endorsed Kenya. So why isn't Djibouti contesting for the same position again, this time for the 2025-2026 term? That is why I feel there is an hidden motive here in this issue of AUC chair position where Djibouti has fronted someone. So Pauline Njoroge shared an interesting story about Djibouti And the story expounds on Djibouti's move that most of Pan-Africanists feel it's just a movement to ruin Kenya's chances. But the question here is, who stands to benefit if Kenya loses and Djibouti wins? Personally, I think this boils down to interference from outsiders, the Western interference, who have their eyes on Africa. We call them neocolonialists. So again, who between Raila Amolo Odinga, who is 80 to 81 years old, and Yusuf, who according to statistics or according to the history we have, is that he is 59 years, who between the two understands Africa better than the other? Talking about the Pan-Africanism. Who has that in the blood? Most people know very well that Raila Amolo Odinga is a true Pan-Africanist. The other question here is, who colonized Djibouti? These are very interesting questions. So for the part of who colonized Djibouti, and going by the history, Djibouti is a French colony, and it was named French Somaliland. And on 27th June 1977, Djibouti gained independence from France. At the time, it was the last of France's colonies in Africa. History tells us that the country changed its name to Djibouti after its biggest city, and it became known as the Republic of Djibouti. That was in 26th June 2022. So, could France be attempting to plan a coup on the African Union Commission? We all know that France has lost most of its allies in Africa, talking about Niger, talking about Burkina Faso, and most recently, the election of the Senegal country also saw France lose, whereby there is a tough-talking Sonko, telling France that we have to renegotiate, we must renegotiate this alliance. It can't be that France takes all. This has to be a win-win position. So that was a major setback to France. So the question here, could France be the one trying to front Djibouti to put someone there to vie for that position, because it has been given to East Africa? So if it has been given to East Africa, meaning South Africa, Northern Africa, Western, those other countries will not front one of their own. So maybe France wants to control the AUC indirectly by favoring Djibouti to front one of its own, But let's take a closer look at what Pauline Njoroge thinks of Djibouti. In 2019, Kenya secured African Union endorsement to be the continent's sole candidate for the race to win the non-permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council. During the secret vote by permanent representatives of AU member states in Addis Ababa, Kenya faced Djibouti, which was also interested in representing Africa in the UN's most powerful organ. At the end of voting, Djibouti, through its foreign minister, not only conceded defeat after garnering 13 votes against 37 in favor of Kenya, but also congratulated and endorsed Kenya's bid. This made Kenya the sole candidate for Africa. However, soon after Djibouti made a swift about turn, reneged on her decision to support Kenya and declared her intention to go for the seat. This spoiler move effectively complicated Kenya's bid and jeopardized our chance at the seat. What followed was a period of unnecessary competition and deployment of resources by Kenya to capture the seat. Of course, Kenya and Africa was able to overcome this obstacle and secure the seat after securing 129 votes against Djibouti's 62. Fast forward to 2024, and Djibouti is at it again. After Kenya secured East Africa's endorsement to front Raila Odinga as the region's candidate for AUC chairmanship or chairperson, Djibouti has declared interest in the seat. Of course, Kenya will shake off Djibouti's challenge and deliver the seat. However, we have to ask a critical question. What does Djibouti have against Kenya? Or whose interest is the country representing? We know of external forces that are always actively working towards weakening AUC, so that the Commission can be easily managed and manipulated towards certain agendas. In light of this, it will be the hope of every well-meaning African citizen that the process of electing the next chairperson will be guided by patriotism and the spirit of Pan-Africanism and not influenced by external interest. A strong AUC is fundamental in achieving the Africa we want. So very well, ladies and gentlemen, that is what I was telling you about. Personally, I think Djibouti has something at the back of their mind. Why is it that every time Kenya wants to make a positive move, they always want to interfere? But now, AU has endorsed Somali to take or to bid for that position of the UN Security Council, but Djibouti is not showing indication of contesting for the same. But when Kenya was given that endorsement by AU, Djibouti wanted to spoil the chances of Kenya. So this is why I personally feel there is something more than what meets the eye. I think personally, Djibouti's intention is to spoil for Kenya, a move which they might not win because already Kenya has gotten so many endorsements from many countries. So that means they might reach to a consensus that majority of the countries are for Raila Amolo Odinga, because AUC says either it's through if East Africa does not agree on what we call, they don't agree to on a consensus basis, that is they pick on one of them, which according to statistics Raila Amolo Odinga could be the one who is going to be picked. If they don't come to that agreement, then itabidi iwe subjected to an election. So what Djibouti is trying to do is to spoil that part so that there's no consensus. So if there's no consensus, Djibouti believes that there'll have to be some vote. Vote will have to take place. So if the votes, if Africa is subjected to voting now, hapo kutakuwa na kazi ngumu, because now it might turn out to be an issue of Arabs, Christians, such kind of politics will now play here. There are countries which are allied to the Arab countries, France countries. Those countries might want to vote for Djibouti. Somali will front their own, but the good thing with this issue is that if Djibouti vies, and also Somali vies, like it has already made a move, then Raila Amolo Odinga will win this seat. But if it's Raila and Djibouti and no Somali, Somali does not vie, then I think there's going to be some serious concern, kwa sababu hapo kutakuwa ni vuta ni kuvute. Maybe this vote might even go to the next stage, so anything can happen. But what we know is that the AUC is endorsing East Africa, but the AUC has not endorsed Kenya. Africa Union has not endorsed Kenya to take over that position, but it has given that to the East Africa. So any country within the Eastern Africa can take this position or can vie for this position. And this is the reason why you find that Djibouti is taking advantage of that part. Somalia is taking advantage of that part. We understand that Sudan cannot vote. They were banned. And most of those coup d'etat countries also cannot vote. They were banned. So countries like Burkina Faso, I think Burkina Faso haiwezi, Nigeria haiwezi. Maybe Senegal inaweza, because Senegal, they went to a democratic election and the incumbent party conceded defeat. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to raise my case there. But personally, what do you think of this move by Djibouti? I know you've heard about this story from other YouTubers, but what do you think about the move? Personally, I think there is something sinister here. So ladies and gentlemen, perhaps if you're watching this video and you've not subscribed, please take 1 second and subscribe. Like this video. So until you catch up again, please stay safe and stay blessed.